There are stories about what happened.
It's true. All of it.
Might help if I unmuted my mic, wouldn't it? Hey, everybody. Welcome to the live stream for the month of August, the live Q&A. I know I put out on the event on Facebook that this was going to be a Facebook event, but for some reason I couldn't get my encoding software to transfer to my Facebook page, which I've never had a problem with it before. So I guess Facebook just didn't want me to do a live Q&A on the night that I paid them to promote it. So, it is what it is. We're just going to go ahead and do it right here on YouTube. And if you guys will give me just a moment here, I am going to see if I can transfer, or at least, I'm sorry, share the link onto the Facebook page for everybody over there waiting to hear. Here it is. Hang on just a second. Let me get this over here. And we are going to be good to go. And publish. Okay. So, oh, you know what? It's asking me to do this. I don't know what that is. Try a code. I can't read that. Okay, I can kind of read that one. I don't know why I'm not a computer. I don't know why it's never done this before. So let's do this real quick. If you guys will bear with me for just a moment, we'll get this. It was just to post something to. Here we go. All right, so we are posted on the Facebook page. We are good to go. Welcome, guys, to the Star Wars Canon Library. It is so great to be here. As I said, this is the live Q&A for August 31st. I tried to do it on Facebook, and for some reason, Facebook wouldn't let me share it. So we're going to do it right here on YouTube. I'm going to answer all of your guys' questions. Just drop them into the chat. But before we get to the chat questions, there's a couple things I wanted to tell you guys about. First off, this is going to be really informal, very laid back. This is just us talking on a Friday night, talking some Star Wars. And so you guys know, by the end of this stream, we will be giving away a hardback edition of Thrawn Alliances. So to one of the viewers, one of the people that ask a question, one of the people that participates, one of you guys is going to win a hardback. So as soon as the stream's over, if you win, I will try to get with you or send me a message on the Facebook page, and I will get your shipping information, and I'll get that in mail to you as quickly as possible. But before we get into the actual live questions, I wanted to tell you guys a little bit about what's coming up. For those of you who are new to the channel, you've realized there hasn't been any content in the last several months coming out. Even those of you who have been following for a while, there's been no content coming out, and there's a reason for that. I've been very busy over the course of this past summer with my day job, with my harvest time, and buying a house. Kirsty and I just bought this house, so between those two things, and I mean, just it's time consuming. So I decided to step away from the Canon library for just long enough to focus on this stuff, get moved in, get settled, get set up, and try to come up with some better ideas for some content for you guys, because it was just the same old like 2 shows, right, every week. So I decided to put together some things for you guys, especially for the patrons. So here is going to be the breakdown, right? I made this calendar. I'm breaking myself off. If you guys can see this, this is my recording calendar now. Between Canon Library and Realm of the Mist with Chris Stolley and Breaking the Fourth Wall, I'm going to be busy AF. So here's what is going on, right? So the Facebook page, hopefully next month, I can get the Facebook stream to actually be on Facebook. If I can't, I'm just going to start doing them right here on YouTube and share the link to the Facebook audience, see if I can get them over. So that may or may not be right here on YouTube. We're going to play that one by ear. But for the YouTube channel itself, starting tomorrow night is the triumphant return of the Star Wars Canon podcast. Me and Chris Stolley are going to be sitting down and talking about a lot of the big news stories that have come out over the last 3 months. Kind of give you our take on them and just talk some Star Wars for a while. We're going to talk about some upcoming canon, some new canon that has just dropped. We're going to review some novels. We're going to have a good old time talking some Star Wars canon. So the Star Wars Canon podcast is going to be weekly. It's going to be released right here on the YouTube channel. I may even release it on the Patreon just so the patrons will have easier access to it there as well. Also on the YouTube channel, we're going to be having all of our non-spoiler reviews and reaction videos still. So those will all still be right here on the YouTube channel. Now, as far as the Patreon account goes, I've come up with a couple of different shows just for the patrons. First off, here I got a graphic made for one of them. The other two, I haven't. I actually just came up with a name for one of them. I haven't got graphics made for them yet. But one of the shows, look, there's a lot of new TV series coming out, Star Wars TV series, right? So we've got, and we've got several TV series we can go through. We've got Clone Wars that we've got so far. We've got the new season of Clone Wars coming, which we'll talk more about on the Star Wars Canon podcast tomorrow night. But we've got Rebels, we've got upcoming Resistance, and we've got Jon Favreau's live-action television series coming on the Disney streaming service. So there's there's a crap load of television material coming. So I decided that we are going to sit down, you and I, we're going to sit down and we are going to talk Star Wars television with Canon Library after shows. Simply what I'm going to do, I know that Clone Wars and Rebels have been released for a while, and I know we got new Clone Wars coming, but each week I'm going to sit down and watch, if it's a standalone episode, great, I'll watch the one episode and we'll talk about it. But if it's an actual story arc, the Onderon Saw Gerrera stuff was, I think, 4 or 5 episodes. If it's a big story arc like that, we'll actually just sit down and talk about the arc as a whole. But that's going to be a live stream that I'm going to be doing, I think, on Sunday nights. I think I'm going to do it on Sunday nights, and I'm going to put it right there on the Patreon, strictly for the patrons. We're going to talk some Star Wars television, and then once the new series drops, well, actually both new series, once they both drop, we're going to be watching them each week, and we're going to be sitting down and talking about them, and breaking them down. So I'm very, very excited about that. That's going to be a lot of fun. Another one of the new shows that I've decided to put together is we were going to do Journal of the Jedi, which was Chris Stolley's baby. It was his brainchild. And now that we're kind of in with the Cocky Cockpit guys, they asked Chris if he wanted to bring a show over for them, and he said yes, so he took Journal of the Jedi over there. So I decided that we are going to do Journal of the Jedi version 2.0, and we're just going to call it Jedi Issues. And in Jedi Issues, we're just going to sit down and talk about all of the new Star Wars canon comics coming out, that have come out, and we're just going to talk comics. That's all it's going to be. It might be comics that have already come out, might be upcoming comics, might be issues we've just read. We don't know, it's whatever we decide we want to talk about as far as comics go, but that is where you're going to get all of your comic information. The other show that I'm wanting to release, let me find it here. Here it is. It's going to be a 1 episode a month. It's going to be monthly, but once I tell you what it is, you'll understand why. I haven't come up with a name for it yet, so if any of you guys have a great idea for a name for this, drop it in the chat board. I will gladly go through them, and if you, hell, I can't come up with a name for it. So what we're going to be doing is sitting down. I'm going to be rereading one of the Canon novels. All right, I don't know which one. I might just start and do them in the order in which they were released. That might be the best thing. But starting with A New Dawn, then Tarkin, Heir to the Jedi, and Lords of the Sith. Might just go right through them that way. I think Dark Disciple was 5th, then Aftermath. I think we're gonna go that route. But we're gonna sit down and I'm gonna do a live video with you guys. And if you guys haven't read the novel and you don't want any spoilers, I would recommend staying away from this one. If you haven't read it and you don't care about spoilers, go ahead and tune in. We're going to be talking about everything that happens in the novel, breaking it down bit by bit by bit. Now, I know what you're thinking. At some point, and it's going to be, quite a ways down the road, but at some point, we're going to run out of novels to talk about each month. So at that point, I'm going to have a very special treat for you guys, and it's far enough down the road that I can kind of prepare for it. I know this is the Star Wars Canon Library, but we're going to start reading the old EU novels, and we're going to start discussing those. So, we're going to start right at the beginning with, what was it, Dawn of the Jedi? Yeah, Dawn of the Jedi, and then we're going to do the Lost Tribe of the Sith stuff, all the Old Republic, the Revan novels, Deceived, Red Harvest. We're just going to go right through them, right in chronological order. So, and then if a new novel happens to come out, and I'm putting my spoiler review out for you guys, we'll take a break from the EU novels, and we'll go back to a canon novel. We'll discuss it, and then the next month, if we don't have one by then, we'll go back to the EU novels. So that's kind of what I've got lined up for the patrons. And also, if you guys sign up for Patreon, I'll be sending you guys an exclusive Star Wars Canon Library bookmark. And hang on a second, I've got one that I use. Oh crap! I'll show you what they look like here. I'll be sending you guys one of these. I guess to go that way, wouldn't it? One of these nifty bookmarks. Mine's a little dirty from being at work with me today, but on the back it's got all the links and everything that you see. Oh, I guess it's that side that you see right over here. So they're all right here on the back of this also. So if you guys sign up for Patreon, I'll be sending you guys one of these for all of your canon novels. And speaking of sending out some stuff and some promotional material, I wanted to tell you guys about one other thing. If you guys have any questions for Star Wars Canon, go and start dropping them in the chat board. As soon as I'm done talking to you guys about this upcoming thing, then I'll start getting to them. But here before long, I'm going to be purchasing in bulk. At 250 for the first order is kind of that's bulk. I'm going to be getting military style dog tags made with the Star Wars Canon Library Millennium Falcon logo that you see right here. We're going to be putting that on these military dog tags. I'm going to be selling them for $5 a piece, but it's not for any profit for me. The only money that's coming out of it for me is the money to cover the price of the dog tag, just to cover the cost. The rest of the proceeds for all of that is going to be going to the Wounded Warrior Project. So that's, I mean, if you purchase one of these dog tags, just know that it's going to a great cause. As a former soldier, it's something that I'm very passionate about. But we are going to be purchasing a crap load of these dog tags. And if you guys are interested in them, just shoot us an email or shoot us a message on Facebook. We're going to have them for sale on the website, which you guys can see right here, StarWarsCanonLibrary.com. I don't have the page up for it yet, but eventually I will get them on there. We're going to be selling those, and we're going to be donating all the proceeds to Wounded Warriors. So, guys, I'm very, very excited about that. I can't wait. And I'm gonna donate. Look, just because I'm buying them doesn't mean I'm not gonna donate to get one. If I wear one, I'm gonna donate. So I know Chris Stolle is very excited about that. I know Mark Tolley from War of the Stars is very excited about that. So. And speaking of Chris Stolle and Chris Stolle and Mark Tolley. Wow, I never realized how similar those names were actually. They are with a company called Realm of the Mist, which I don't know if a lot of you guys know, but Star Wars Canon Library is I guess you could call partner with Realm of the Mist, or I guess a subsidiary. I don't know really what you'd call it. Canon Library falls under that umbrella. So if you guys really want some good material, some other good podcasts, some other good shows, some other really, really good talk shows, make sure to visit their YouTube channel as well. Matter of fact, Star Wars Canon Library has got quite a few episodes on there. They do Breaking the Fourth Wall, War of the Stars, It Had to Be Said, Press A Gaming. We do all these different shows. I'm on Breaking the Fourth Wall most of the time. We talk about literally anything, movies, music, comics, Star Wars, Star Trek even, you know. So make sure to go check that out. Hey, I can see Rob Burns is watching. Hey, brother, how's it going? Speaking of Star Trek fans, so we talk some Star Trek on there too once in a while. So make sure to check out Breaking the Fourth Wall with Chris Stolle and I. And I mentioned Mark Tolley. He does a podcast called War of the Stars, which is another Star Wars podcast, but it's a little different than what I do here at the library. So make sure to check that one out as well. I'm on there kind of hit and miss. I'm going to try to be on there more often. We're actually trying to get him up to speed with some of his design and stuff to get him kind of up to where we're at with the graphics and everything. So definitely go check out Realm of the Mist Entertainment's YouTube channel. There's some really good stuff over there. And if you guys like Chris Stolle and I talking Star Wars or anything at all, even politics once in a while, we'll even talk politics. I think on the last Breaking the Fourth Wall we did politics. It was an It Had to Be Said episode, which It Had to Be Said, we talk a lot about politics. So definitely head over there and check that out. But what do you say we're already 13, 14 minutes into this. Let's go ahead and get the live questions going. So my buddy Rob Burns in Ohio, he's watching right now. Thank you for tuning in, brother. He says, can we discuss, I don't know if Kirsty's home. I don't know if I can say his name. Jar Jar. Now, can we discuss Jar Jar? Now, Kirsty doesn't like me even saying his name in this house. She said, well, I asked her if I could get a stuffed Gungan head to put in my living room, and she told me there's to be no mention, dead or alive, of that guy. So, in this house, matter of fact, I think we're going to get a poster and put it up in the living room. Thou shalt not speak the name of Jar Jar. So, yeah, I'll go ahead and talk about him for right now. It's one of those things. Look, I know, like, if Chris Stolle were on here with me right now, right? He hates Jar Jar. Not as much as I do, but he hates Jar Jar. But he hates other characters more. Like, if you get around him and bring up L337 from the Solo film, he's going to lose his freaking mind, dude. Like, he even said, he's said before that he hates L337 more than Jar Jar. He hates Rose Tico from Last Jedi more than Jar Jar. So, you know, and when you look at Clone Wars, right, the series Clone Wars, Jar Jar had more of a prominent role in that. Now, don't get me wrong. Nothing redeemed him in my eyes, right? I can't stand that character. And I feel like he really got... his fate was kind of shown in Aftermath Empire's End. And he became a street clown, performing for scraps of food on the streets of Naboo for orphans. That was the fate of J.J. Binks. That was his fate, right? So... And when I read it, I was just laughing the whole time, like, he's starving. Yeah, like, I hate the guy so much. But it still wasn't good enough in my opinion. So somewhere down the road, we will get to the point where Jar Jar isn't such a what's the word I'm looking for? Taboo name in this household, maybe? I don't know. Yeah, I just, not to get like too inappropriate, but maybe the next time me and Kirsty are kind of fooling around, I'll slip in the name and see what she says. I'll probably get shot. So I'm surprised. I think she's home. I'm surprised she's not opening the door, kicking it in like the Kool-Aid man going, what? But anyway, yeah, Jar Jar, man, God. Jamie, okay, look, I am no good with names, so please forgive me, Jamie, if I butcher your last name. Holbeck? I think that's how you say it. I'm really, really sorry if I butcher that. But Jamie says, so I saw the quote-unquote Meet Team Fireball trailer, and I'm kind of conflicted. Referring to Star Wars Resistance, the new animated series. I like the art, but I'm concerned about how it's made more for kids, and I'm worried I may not get into it. What are your thoughts? Star Wars Resistance, I'm right there with you. Star Wars Resistance is that first thing that Lucasfilm has come out with, right? That I looked at and went, so what? Okay, cool. Look, Dave Filoni is producing this show. He's writing it. I mean, you see what he did with Clone Wars. You see what he did with Rebels. He did such a great job with Rebels that you've got a lot of the fan base crying that if Kathleen Kennedy gets removed as president of Lucasfilm, that he takes her place. You've got people, I mean, almost up in arms about her being president of Lucasfilm and wanting him to take over, right? And it really didn't really blossom until spoiler alert for those of you that haven't seen Rebels season 4 at this point. It's on Blu-ray. It's been out on Blu-ray for a while, so if you haven't seen it yet, you've been warned. But because of the episodes in season 4 of Rebels where it looped right back around to the season 2 finale of Rebels, where you see Ahsoka facing off with Vader, which was bone-chilling, by the way. But you see what happened to Ahsoka there. You see this kind of time rift. I know if you guys haven't seen it and you start messing with time in Star Wars, it doesn't work, but it worked for some reason. Like, Filoni made it work in a way that was just beautiful, right? And the episode was called A World Between Worlds. And Ezra goes into this extra dimension and he sees what's going on with Ahsoka and Vader, and he's the reason that Ahsoka, survives, right? So he had this long-term plan laid out for 2 years, right, of Rebels. So people are crying for him to be in charge of Lucasfilm, or at least take control, be the Kevin Feige of Lucasfilm, right? So the only reason I'm even remotely excited for Resistance is because he's in charge of it. He's the one doing it, and I have full faith in Filoni, right? So I'm going to give it a shot. And you brought up the animation style. I'm not a fan of it either, to be completely honest. It's one of those, it's got that like 2D, 3D kind of simultaneous feel. Oh, hair is going crazy. Kirsty's home. I hear in there. Sorry, that's my dog. Anyway, if you guys couldn't figure it out, my mother-in-law's visiting. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, no, it's one of those things that you're right. It looks like it's geared more towards children, but at the same time, so did Rebels. Rebels looked like it was going to be geared towards children, and that turned out to be really, really dark the further we got into it, right? So, I mean, especially with the death of Canon, and some of these characters getting killed off, it got really, really dark, and it was more for the adults at that point. So, I don't think Resistance is going to get that dark. It's only, 6 months before The Force Awakens, so you really can't. How long could this show possibly run, right? So it's one of those things. I think it takes place before the Poe Dameron comic, because that kind of leads up to Force Awakens and then post Last Jedi at this point, right? So I don't even know how long the series is going to go, but I'm kind of excited for it, but I'm not like up in arms, cannot wait for it, right? So but yeah, I'm right there with you. I think it's not going to be the series we thought it was going to be. If that makes any sense. I was thinking Resistance was going to be the next sequel series to Rebels, right? Because of the way Rebels left off. But this trailer came out, and it's something completely different. I thought it was going to be the rise of the Resistance, the rise of the First Order, kind of stuff like that. But it's really, really close to Force Awakens. So I guess we're going to have to play it by ear. But like I said, we'll be talking about it on Canon Library After Shows on the Patreon account. So definitely make sure to go check that out, especially after the show comes out. If you want to hear my thoughts, definitely go check out the Patreon page. I would sure appreciate any love you guys show there. The link's like where'd I put it? Right there, right? Yep, that's it. So definitely go check that out. Rob Burns is laughing at the Jar Jar stuff. He who shall not be named. He is. His name is taboo in this house, man. I'm not playing. Kyler Knowles says, have you finished Thrawn Alliances yet? I actually haven't. I'm halfway through it. But so far, my goal was to have it finished before the Canon podcast came back, and I didn't make it. Mainly because I'm kicking off Fall Harvest right now. And matter of fact, I didn't get home till a quarter after 7 my time, which is 45 minutes for the stream started. So I put together all these graphics and everything. I was on a time crunch, but I haven't had a chance to finish Thrawn Alliances yet. But so far, from what I've read, I am loving it. It is so good. Which anything by Timothy Zahn, you're just going to eat up, right? I think I said recently, me and Chris were talking, and I made the comment, because I used to call Claudia Gray the Timothy Zahn of the new canon. Well, now Timothy Zahn is in the new canon, so I can't say that. But I will say that Timothy Zahn is the king of the new canon, and well, I have canon in general, and Claudia Gray is the queen. I'm going to go that far. But the new Thrawn novel is absolutely great. I wondered where it was going to take place on the timeline, just because the first Thrawn novel led right up butt against, you know, season 3 of Rebels, where he was introduced. So I was kind of wondering where it was going to take place, and, you know, we started hearing rumors about, well, even in the first novel, there was a mention of Thrawn meeting Anakin Skywalker at some point during the Clone Wars, right? Which was, we were like, oh God, we want that story. So I thought that's what this novel was going to be. And then they started talking about he was teaming up with Vader, and I'm like, well, where the hell is this going to take place on the timeline? Now, after reading the first half of it, just a couple chapters in it, it made sense to me. The present day stuff, which is, you know, Thrawn and Vader, I'm going to refer to it as present day. The present day stuff is actually between seasons 3 and 4 of Rebels, and it's during that time period in Rebels where Thrawn wasn't popping up at all. And it's after his fight with the Rebels at the end of season 3, where the Bendu kind of came in and became this Force storm. It's between that and when he pops back up in season 4, because those events are mentioned in the beginning of this novel. Vader is right there to jump on that failure of Thrawn, right? So it's right there in there. So the present day stuff takes place right there between seasons 3 and 4 of Rebels, and then the Clone Wars stuff, because it keeps switching back and forth between, it's telling 2 stories at once, but they're very closely related, and it's going back and forth between that and when Anakin and Thrawn met for the first time, which is during the Clone Wars, but it's after Ahsoka left the Jedi Order. So it's gonna have to be between the 5th, or I guess you could say the 6th season of Clone Wars, the Lost Missions. It's going to be somewhere between that and this new upcoming season of Clone Wars, which, for those of you that don't know, Clone Wars is coming back for one more season to finish it off. But it's, I mean, I'm pretty sure everybody knows that by now, but just in case you didn't know. But I think it's going to, we'll talk about Clone Wars in a little bit. I'm sure somebody's going to bring it up. But no, this new Thrawn novel is awesome. It's absolutely great. And it's really cool because there's one part in there where, and this isn't a spoiler for anything too awful big, but there's a part where Thrawn and Vader walk into this cantina on Batuu, and they're talking to the bartender, and the bartender says, yeah, I remember you. Is that other guy that was with you last time here? And Thrawn just kind of pauses. He's like, no, he's dead, I'm told. And the bartender's like, good, you know, and all this stuff. And it's Anakin he was talking about, because then the very next chapter goes to when they went there for the first time, and it's Anakin being there, and you see why the bartender's not a fan of him, right? And we don't know for a fact that Thrawn knows Vader is Anakin. We can kind of allude to it. There's kind of hints being dropped. But we don't know for sure. I'm sure by the time I finish this, I don't know. I know some of you guys might have finished it by now, and you're screaming at me because I don't know the ending of this. But I'm going to get through it as quickly as I can, and I will have a review out for it for you guys ASAP. It's probably going to be on the Star Wars Canon podcast at some point. Me and Chris will talk about it. But yeah, no, Thrawn Alliances so far, definitely go pick it up. I think I like it better than the first Thrawn novel, which the first Thrawn novel to me was just the reintroduction of Thrawn. Like the Thrawn, right? I know his first appearance was in Rebels, but that was the first, you know, the Thrawn. So I'm loving this one. It's absolutely great. I'm losing my mind over it. Timothy Zahn knows how to write Vader. He knows how to write Thrawn. And what's really crazy about this, right? You think Thrawn is this genius. He's coming out of Timothy Zahn's head, right? So Zahn is actually the genius. It's really crazy when you think about it. C. Sims says, just joined. Hey, what's up, brother? How's it going? Is Snoke alive in episode 9? I think so, and I think he's Plagueis. That's a very popular theory right now. Is Snoke alive? Okay, look, the only way Snoke can be alive in episode 9 is if he's Plagueis, right? I I don't know where I sit on this theory. I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. I'm not going to scream at you and say, no, your theory sucks. I'm not going to. I'm not going to be that guy. But I don't know. You know, here's the way I kind of look at it, right? Boy, Harris pissed. Anyway, here's the way I kind of look at it. Thrawn, or not Thrawn, I'm stuck on Thrawn, sorry. Snoke, I think Snoke I think he has a lot to do with this thing going on in the unknown regions that the Emperor felt, which is being mentioned, by the way, in Thrawn Alliances. That's the mission they're on. But I think Snoke has a lot to do with that. We don't know anything about Snoke. We don't know jack about Snoke. So could he be? JJ's coming back for episode 9. Chris kind of has me convinced that JJ had all this stuff planned for the trilogy, and then Rian Johnson retconned a lot of it, or kind of went off in a different course with it, and JJ is going to fix it. I think, man, like, I hate to say it, but I think he's going to. I think JJ is going to fix a lot of stuff. I think he's going to try to fix some things to kind of regain the trust of the fans, because whether you liked Last Jedi or not, that movie split the fan base. I don't want to say down the center, but it split the fan base. But it's one of those things that I don't want to make any calls about Snoke, because at this point, I mean, hell, they might not ever mention Snoke again. I don't think they're going to, but it's a possibility, you know? So I don't know. Somebody mentioned in a mailbag episode quite a while back, they asked me if I thought that the Force ghosts of Luke and Snoke were going to have a lightsaber battle in episode 9. I'm like, what would be the point, right? So, I mean, what's a lightsaber going to do to a Force ghost? But Chris and I have talked about this, and I'm wondering, if we know Mark Hamill's coming back for episode 9, we haven't heard anything about Andy Serkis. We haven't heard anything about Andy Serkis coming back, which they might not release that, because, I mean, that would be a serious spoiler if they did. And we don't know how Luke's coming back. We don't know if it's going to be a flashback, a Force ghost. We don't know what's going to happen. But look, if you were to ever do a Force ghost, right, of Snoke, because in the EU, Sith, Dark Jedi, Dark Force users could not come back as Force ghosts. We don't know if that's the case with the new canon. There's nothing in there to really lay that out, to kind of concrete that. So they could come back and say, oh yeah, they can come back. Why not? So, I mean, we don't know. I mean, anything could happen in episode 9, right? But let's just say hypothetically that there's a Force ghost of Snoke that comes back and the Force ghost of Luke. And if they go head to head, that's going to be a battle of the freaking Force power wills, right? You're going to have an evil Force ghost of Snoke, which is literally the dark side, or one with the dark side, and you're going to have the essence of good with Luke, which is the embodiment of the good side, going toe-to-toe. I see shit getting messed up, dude. I really do. So I don't think they're going to go toe-to-toe. Now, I really don't know about Snoke, man. I really don't. Like, I don't want to... I'm going to say no. Snoke is not alive in episode 9. But I'm not going to disagree with you that he might have been Plagueis, if that makes any sense. I'm gonna say no, I don't think he's alive, but I'm gonna say yeah, there's a possibility he could have been Plagueis. Now Chris and I have talked about the Force ghost of Anakin coming back, which could really, really be interesting, because he has this idea of, Anakin's Force ghost coming back and, talking to Rey or, somebody, and kind of like all of a sudden you'll just see a quick flicker, in his Force ghost from the Hayden Christensen, right? Because we know now from a certain point of view, from the story Claudia Gray wrote, Master and Apprentice, that the Force ghost isn't what they looked like when they were alive. It's how they saw themselves. So it's their mental image of themselves. Kind of like what the Neo and Morpheus were in, like, the Matrix, right? It was their self-projected image of how they saw themselves. So Anakin, having been conflicted, having been redeemed after everything he did, he may see himself as this conflicted being still, where he might flicker back and forth between a light side version of himself and like a quick flash haunting burnt version of himself, just like for an instant, just kind of flicker back and forth, right? Which would be so cool visually, right? It's one of those things where, and it would add a kind of layer to Force ghosts that we don't have at the moment, right? So to see like that quick little like shift back and forth, it would be so haunting, and it'd show Anakin still regretting what he did as Vader, you know? I mean, that would be so cool. Don't do the split thing where it's Vader's the Force Ghost and Anakin's the Force Ghost. Don't do that. But do that quick little flicker thing where you can still tell they're the same person. God, that'd be so cool. But anyway, I'll get off of that. But let's see here. Jamie says, don't worry about it. Nobody gets my name right the first time. Fair enough. It's pronounced Whole Beach. Oh, okay, right on. And yeah, I trust Filoni, and I'm up for trying it. I'm hoping to be pleasantly surprised. I think we will be. I do think the first few episodes will be kind of childish, but I think once it gets going and it finds its stride, I think Resistance might be pretty good. But look, the art style is going to be something I wrap my head around too. Because when they said it was going to be anime style, when they first announced it, right, they said it was going to be anime style. And I thought they were, I mean, my first thought is, right, stereotypically, anime is like Japanese anime, right? Which would have been way different. And I'm not a big fan of Japanese anime, but you know that TIE Fighter short that came out a while back, that anime TIE Fighter short, that was pretty sick. So something along those lines I would have lost my mind over. But I think once I look past the animation style, I think it's going to be all right. Jamie says the best part of A World Between Worlds was the future and past moments being heard, Kylo Ren, Beru, etc. You are so right, because the first time I watched that episode and he's walking, you know, down the, I guess you could say catwalk, you know, the light beams that he was walking on. Excuse me. Throat was getting dry. The first time he got there and you heard, you know, Beru going, Luke, Luke, and you hear that, and you know, and you hear Leia saying, help me, Obi-Wan, you're my only hope, and what else was there? You could hear Jyn Erso, and there's, you know, giving that hope speech, you know, the time to act is now, you know, you could hear that in there. You could hear you could hear Yoda talking quite a bit, you know, and both versions of Yoda, by the way, because you can obviously tell puppet Yoda from, you know, from prequel Yoda, but there were both versions in there. It's just, if you break that down and listen to each and every little line they kind of added in there, you know, even stuff from Rey from Last Jedi, you know, and Kylo Ren talking, it's just, and the Emperor, it was so crazy to know that all of this is happening simultaneously in this place. And it's not necessarily time travel. You know what I mean? It's stepping outside of time to a dimension where everything is happening at once. You know, and it's something that I really feel like they need to visit somewhere else down the road, because especially that episode touched a lot on the Mortis episodes of Clone Wars also. So that's something else I want them to touch on later on down the road. But yeah, some of those lines were absolutely, it was almost bone chilling to hear. You know, and it was so beautifully done. It's just, that's why I have faith in Filoni. That's why I have full faith in Dave Filoni. He's a fan. He gets it. You know, he's the protege of George Lucas, which, in my opinion, he's doing better than George Lucas post classic trilogy. Prequels on, he's doing better than what George Lucas was. Now, nobody will ever do anything better than what the classic trilogy was, obviously. But yeah, it's that episode, that is definitely one of my favorite episodes, and it was such a beautiful thing to watch, and it was just this awesome gift, like, and your jaw drops and you realize what's going on. Jesse McCabe was watching. Hey Jesse, how's it going, brother? Jesse was one of my harvest help this past wheat harvest at the grain elevator. How's it going, brother? Thanks for tuning in. Kyler Knowles says, which book are you looking forward to, Master and Apprentice or Queen's Shadow? Me personally, Master and Apprentice, because of Claudia Gray. I'm right there with you, man. For those of you that don't know, there are there's several new novels coming out, but two of which are a novel by E.K. Johnston, who wrote Ahsoka, called E.K. Johnston. Oh my God, called Queen's Shadow, which is a Padme novel, and it follows Padme as she steps down of Queen of Naboo. And she's being asked by the Queen to stay on, like we heard in episode 2. You know, the Queen asked her to stay on as senator, and she couldn't refuse her. That's that story, you know, her kind of stepping into a new role where you realize, you know, just from the synopsis, that's what that word again that I always have trouble with, that you don't know if she really knew a whole lot about politics. When she was queen, because she even told Senator Palpatine, you know, this is your arena. I feel I must return to mine, which was her home planet. You know, she wasn't real comfortable at the Senate. She didn't have a lot of faith in the Republic. But stepping into the shoes of a senator, it says she has to learn the ins and outs of politics, and trying to step out of that queen's shadow of everybody still looking at her as a queen when now she's a senator, you know. So it's one that I'm really interested in reading. I'm not big on prequel politics. Everybody knows that. But it's one of those things where I'm loving the Padme stuff in Thrawn Alliances. She's in that novel quite a bit. So you can do a really good Padme story. And we don't have a good Padme story. So we need one. So I'm looking forward to that one. But Master and Apprentice is on an entirely new level of hype for me. For those of you that don't know, Claudia Gray is one of the, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, and I think Kyler, you'll agree with me. Claudia Gray is on this level of Star Wars writing that is unfreaking believable. She started with Lost Stars, which came out the same time as Aftermath, right? Aftermath was the Del Rey novel. Lost Stars was a Lucasfilm Press novel, which all of the attention, all the hype was on Aftermath, because it was the first post-Return of the Jedi look we were getting at the galaxy, right? This is before Force Awakens came out. And everybody was excited for Aftermath, which was kind of a letdown, right? It was all lead-up, like what a part one of 2 films is. It was all lead-up, and then payoff was in the 2nd and 3rd book. So not a lot of people loved the first Aftermath. But then Lost Stars came out the same day, and everybody read Lost Stars and was like, what the really? God. And Lost Stars was a novel that really wove its way in and out of the classic trilogy in this beautiful way, with these characters that it introduced that were so pivotal to certain events in the classic trilogy that you don't even know about, right? And when you watch the films, they were right there and you didn't even know it. So it was absolutely beautifully written. And then she went on to write Bloodline, which was 5 or 6 years before The Force Awakens. It was a Leia novel, you know, and it was Leia kind of dealing with the New Republic and her role in the New Republic, and this giant freaking just bomb gets dropped on the galaxy, you know, which, not literally, but, you know, who Leia's family might have been, the whole galaxy finds out in this novel, and it's absolutely jaw-dropping to read, because as you're reading, you don't know this is going to happen, and then it happens, and you're just like, oh my God. So the way that, I mean, Bloodline was absolutely great. It was a political thriller, you know, and then, you know, it shows how Leia starts the resistance and stuff like that. But then she went on to write, what was it? Leia, Princess of Alderaan, which was, hey Rob, take it easy, brother. I just saw you. I got to dip out. Miss your face, Space Boy. I miss you too, brother. I can't wait to come visit Ohio again and see you guys again, man. I cannot wait to sit and just play pool with you again, man. Sit and, you know, I can't say smoke cigarettes anymore. I quit smoking. But I can't wait to sit and talk to you again, man. Thanks for tuning in, brother. I miss you. I miss you so much. But Claudia Gray wrote a novel called Leia, Princess of Alderaan. And it was Leia at the age of 16. And you wouldn't think a book about a 16-year-old girl would be that interesting. But it is. It's so good, you know. And the last line of the book is such a gut punch. I'm not going to ruin it for you, but the last line of the novel shows how Claudia Gray can hit you on an emotional level, and you not even see it coming, right? So then she did this story, ironically enough, called Master and Apprentice, short story. In the collection of short stories, it was From a Certain Point of View. And it was Qui-Gon's ghost coming back and visiting Obi-Wan during A New Hope, after Luke runs off to go find Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru's burnt corpses. While Obi-Wan is waiting, Qui-Gon comes to Obi-Wan. And it was so awesomely written to see the dynamic between Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan. And you see that Claudia Gray gets that dynamic as well. So that story was received so well that they have commissioned her to write a novel, a full-blown novel called Master and Apprentice, and it is going to be a Qui-Gon Obi-Wan novel pre-Phantom Menace. So I'm like stupid over the moon ready for this novel. I cannot wait for it. We don't have a whole lot of pre-Phantom Menace stuff. We have the Darth Maul 5-issue run, and we have a like 6-issue arc in the Star Wars comic of Yoda. A mission he went on pre-Phantom Menace. So we need some more pre-Phantom Menace stuff. And there's certain things that I'm really looking forward to in this novel. I'm hoping to God we see a still Jedi Count Dooku. I'm hoping to God we see a still Jedi before he turned to the dark side. I'm hoping we see Count Dooku as a Jedi still. Chris and I were talking about it. We want to see, you know, Obi-Wan giving Qui-Gon some hell, kind of like Anakin gave Obi-Wan hell in episode 2, stuff like that. So it's going to be an absolutely crazy novel. I cannot wait. I wish I had a release date for you guys. Oh, excuse me. I'm so sorry. I wish to God I had a release date for you guys for that. I think Queen's Shadow is March 5th. 2019, I believe, is the release date. But the Master and Apprentice, I don't remember off the top of my head what the release date is for that. So I'm sorry. I will get that to you guys. But yeah, I cannot wait for that novel. I'm right there with you, man. That's the one I'm looking forward to. Jamie Holbeach says, talking of the Mortis episodes in Clone Wars, I was wondering, why do you think that neither Anakin nor Yoda tried to prevent his turn to the dark side? Sorry, pressed enter too early. Don't worry about it. Because Yoda saw Order 66 and the various Jedi Palpatine killed, such as Kit Fisto and Saesee Tiin. You're right. It's one of those things where maybe, you know, it goes back to what Luke was saying in Last Jedi with the Jedi Order's hubris, their downfall, their arrogance. You know, maybe the only thing I can think of is that Anakin, because look, when you see the future, right? If you see, let's say somebody showed you your future, okay, and you're going to die a certain way. Let's just say you saw how you're going to die. You could do everything you could to prevent that from happening and unknowingly be the cause of you dying that way. You know what I'm saying? Like, not knowing that you were the one putting everything in motion. So I have this theory about time, because now we've got time. I don't want to say time travel, but I don't even say time manipulation. But now we know from the World Between Worlds episode, time is all happening at the same time. So in the Star Wars universe, so I don't think there's anything anybody could have done to prevent what was going to happen. I think it was all set in stone from the beginning. I think it's one of those things where it was meant to happen the way it happened. So, you know, I mean, look at Anakin, right? He had a vision of Padme's death, right? And Obi-Wan there with her and her screaming, right? What did he do? He ended up turning to the dark side to prevent that from happening. And unwittingly, unknowingly, caused that future to happen, right? So, I don't know. Maybe Yoda was, I don't want to say this because Yoda's one of my favorite characters, but maybe Yoda was so arrogant that he thought maybe they were doing the right thing and that it wasn't going to come to pass, and maybe it was just a manipulation of what Anakin was having, right? Maybe he thought it was something like that. I don't know, but Anakin does say, you know, I will do such horrible things. But remember, that whole vision was taken. He had that wiped from his memory. Anakin no longer had any of that. That vision was taken out of his head, where when it was all said and done, he didn't remember any of it. So he only knew about it for a short time. And what did he do? He turned to the dark side right off the bat, right? Anakin turned to the dark side in the Clone Wars temporarily. Ahsoka turned to the dark side temporarily in Clone Wars, right? So that did happen, you know, it's hard to sit here and say what if. Certain things had to happen a certain way because we already knew the future. We knew the prequels were going to start. We didn't know where they were going to start, but once they started, we knew, okay, they're going to start here. This is where they have to get to. And that's what they did, right? So I think Anakin, trying too hard to keep it from happening caused it to happen, you know? So it's one of those things that we can talk about all the time, you know, what if this had happened? What if they had done this, you know, but then we wouldn't have the classic trilogy, you know? So it's fun to speculate, especially because back in the day, before Disney bought Lucasfilm, there was a series of comics called Infinities, where they took one thing that happened and changed it and then played out the rest of the story. And I think like my favorite one was on what was it, on Hoth. Luke freezes to death on Hoth after Han finds him. He dies, but he was still babbling about Dagobah and Yoda and Ben and all this stuff. And Han gets Luke Skywalker's body back to Echo Base. And because of what Luke was saying in his, you know, delirious death, Han decided to go to Dagobah and find Yoda, who trained Han Solo as a Jedi. So it was kind of weird the way it kind of went down. It ended up being Lando ended up freezing, I think, Boba Fett and Carbonite and using him as his desk. Or no, what was it? Was it? He froze somebody. I think it was Boba Fett. Froze him as his desk and stuff. It was comedic. It was very, very funny. But you can talk about what ifs all the time, but it's one of those things that it played out the way it did, and I think it was supposed to play out the way it did. Jesse McCabe says, things are good. Had to give a speech today. Oh, man. I hate public speaking. And here I am on a YouTube video doing public speaking. You know, and it's easy. I'm no good talking in front of people, right? If I've got people literally, if I'm making eye contact with them, I can't speak to save my life. I can't do it. But when I'm sitting here talking to a webcam, and I know you guys are watching me through the webcam, I know you're all there, I don't have a problem with it, because it's one, instead of a set of eyes I'm looking at, it's one eye right there that I'm looking at. And I know you guys are on the other end of it, but for some reason it's this weird psychological, it's easier for me to do. You've got more than I do, man, because I wouldn't be able to do it. Hats off, brother. Kyler Knowles says, I've only read Lost Stars by Claudia, but that book is so good. It really is, man. Lost Stars is one of those novels that just... it's so freaking good, man. And it's... I can't wait to reread it for the novel discussions for the Patreon page. I cannot wait to reread that novel. That is the longest novel to date, right? Longest, I mean, page count-wise. I think it's... hang on, I can tell you what the page count is. Where is it? I've got it right here. The page count on Lost Stars is, like, really, really long. It is 551 pages. So, at 551 pages, it is the longest canon novel to date, but it is the fastest I ever read a canon novel. I picked it up the day it came out, and I started reading it, and I couldn't put it down. I had work the next day. I couldn't put it down. I read all evening till, like, I think 1 or 2 a.m. Tried to put it down to go to sleep. Laid there for like 10 or 15 minutes. Couldn't get to sleep, so I woke back up. I got back up and just read all night. And I read all morning until I had to go to work the next day. And I finished that book in like 22 hours, I think. I finished Lost Stars in 22 hours. I literally could not put it down. It was so, so good. So anytime I find out Claudia Gray is coming out with new material, even a short story, and from a certain point of view, I was like stupid over the moon for it. So excited. So I physically cannot wait. And you know, and I've talked to, I think somebody commented on one of the videos the other day and said the Bloodline, they didn't really care for it that much because they talked a lot about what the characters were wearing and stuff. But and they're not wrong, but it was really good novel. Hey, until a few more questions roll in, because I think we're gonna go, what are we doing, about 47 minutes? I think we're gonna go for like an hour and a half tonight. So until some more people tune in or some more questions get dropped in, let's talk some Clone Wars, man. Clone Wars is returning, because this is one thing that I'm like really excited about. I am more over the moon excited, which I think rightfully so, for Clone Wars than I am Resistance. So Clone Wars, before I get going too much, Clone Wars was a series that I tried watching it before Disney bought everything. I tried watching it on Netflix, and none of it made a lick of sense, man. And so I ended up falling out of it like 3 seasons in, which ironically enough is where it picks up. So I fell out of it like 3 seasons in, and I couldn't really keep up with it, you know, and it just seemed too childish, because I was seeing episodes like Yoda trying to get to the King of Toydaria, and he had the clones with him. You know, just like little standalone episodes, right? One-offs. Filler. And I ended up giving up on it. Then Disney bought it. And then I started the Canon library, and I'm like, well, crap, if I'm going to have the Canon library going, I have to have watched it. Well, then I found out that they weren't in chronological order. So I went and got the chronological order list of Clone Wars, and started watching it from the beginning, which the film that came out to introduce Clone Wars isn't the first thing. Like, there's like a season 2 episode, a season 3 episode, and then it's the film. And then they're all out of order. So it's kind of weird. You would have to go look at the chronological order list, which we happen to have on StarWarsCanonLibrary.com. You can just go to the timeline, click on Clone Wars, and there's the entire chronological list of every episode. You can go on Netflix and just go right down them. But I watched it in chronological order, and I loved it, right? So now that Filoni's coming back with Clone Wars again, it's one of those things that I almost got bone chills the first time that I saw the trailer, right? It was right before, I was going to do a reaction video to it, but it was literally the day before we were moving out of the old house into this one, and I torn my stuff, my computer and everything down the day before. So I was kind of pissed that they dropped the trailer the day after I tore all this down, and I was like, dang it. So Clone Wars, man. I cannot wait for this new season. There's certain things that you're going to have to see in it, right? I know, like, Chris, if you talk to Chris Stolley from Realm of the Mist, Breaking the Fourth Wall, and the Star Wars Canon podcast, if you talk to him, he thinks that it's going to end with Obi-Wan and Anakin going off, getting the message that the Chancellor has been kidnapped, and going to rescue him. I think it's going to end further into Revenge of the Sith than that. Because look at Celebration a year ago. Dave Filoni was talking about where he wanted the story for Ahsoka to go, right? And he was talking about Anakin giving her the 501st to go to Mandalore. Talked about, her facing off with Maul again, which we know did happen at some point, because in Rebels he was referring to Ahsoka as Lady Tano. I think we're going to see what that's about. But then the clones turning on Ahsoka, and her getting on this like giant wolf and running off into this forest, away from the clones and everything. So certain things I think are going to happen. I think Clone Wars this next season is going to end shortly after Order 66. I think it's going to happen. I think you're going to see the clones turn on Ahsoka, and it's going to be really, really interesting to see that from like Rex's point of view, because he pulled his inhibitor chip, and the rest of the clones from Rebels, they all pulled their inhibitor chips. So they might be there going, what the hell are you guys doing? That's the general, So I'm really excited, and that's going to be so gut-wrenching to see that again. It's going to be so hard to watch Order 66 again from a fresh point of view, but I'm excited about it. I can't wait. And we got to see Padme find out she's pregnant. I think we're gonna see Padme find out that she's pregnant with, from her point of view, a child. We know it's twins, but I think we're gonna see her find out she's pregnant. Let's see here, Andrew. Oh, man, like I said, I'm no good with last names, man. I'm so sorry if I butcher this. Malay? I don't know how to pronounce that. But Andrew says, "Are you gonna watch Resistance?" Yeah, I'm gonna watch it. Even if I wasn't doing the Canon library and the Canon podcast, I probably would still give it a shot, because I'm OCD as hell when it comes to collecting stuff. I come from a family of collectors. When I start a collection, I have to have all of them. I don't care how much money I spend. I don't care how much time I waste. I don't care. I have to have all of them, right? So, and it's a curse. It really is. It's not a blessing. It's such a curse, because I've got a wall of Black Series figures over there that I don't have 10% of them, and it's driving me freaking crazy. And I'll never get all of them. I think I've got like 45 figures, and it's just it pisses me off, because I'm never. Oh, okay. What did I say the first time? Malay? I think I said it Malay. Okay, so. But anyway, I collect everything. So yeah, and I'm the same way with TV series. If I start one, I have to finish it. I'm halfway through season 4 of American Horror Story. I haven't watched it in a year and a half, and it's driving me crazy. I have to go back and finish it. But yeah, I would have probably given it a shot even if it wasn't for the Canon library. But because I'm doing the Canon library, yeah, I'm definitely gonna watch it. I don't know how I'm gonna watch it yet, because I don't have cable. I might have to buy a cable package just to watch it. But yeah, and in case you didn't know, I don't know if you know, starting this, I should say next month. It's still August, isn't it? Starting next month, September, I'm going to be doing after shows for all the TV episodes, TV series episodes that we have got out so far for every series, and then for the upcoming series also, and that's going to be on the Patreon. So we're going to be, I think each week I'm going to do an episode of Rebels and an episode of Clone Wars. Unless it's one big massive story arc like the Onderon stuff or the Mortis episodes, I'll probably lump all those together. But I'm gonna do a rewatch of Clone Wars and Rebels to lead up to Clone Wars coming out and Resistance and whatnot. So stay tuned for that. We're gonna be having that come out also. But yeah, I'm gonna watch Resistance. I'm not like yay over it, but it's something I'm gonna give a shot. Jamie Holbeach says, who would you say is your favorite Star Wars character? That's a really good question. I'd have to say mine. I have to say that mine is Maul. I absolutely loved every second he was shown in Clone Wars and Rebels. He allowed the series to get dark. Yeah, man. Really, because if you look at Clone Wars, right? Like I said, it picked up in season 4, which I think season 4 is where they reintroduced Maul, right? Which it's funny because when Solo came out and who popped up, you could hear people in the theater going, I thought he was dead. So how does he have legs? Stuff like that. And you could tell who in the audience hadn't watched Rebels. And the same thing with Rogue One when the ghost popped up. Like, you could hear people going, oh, there it is, there's the ghost, you know, and there's Chopper. You could tell who in the audience. And other people are like, what the hell are you talking? But no, Maul's a good one. And I think his appearance in Solo was the start of a new story arc for him that I think the fans screwed up. I think they did. I'm not going to go into pointing fingers at certain people or, you know, whose fault it was. I'm not going to get into that. But I think because of the way Solo performed, I think we're not going to get the rest of that arc in a film. I don't think so. But Maul's a really good one. My favorite character. God, there's so many. I really, like, I know who I want to say, but it's going to sound so stereotypical, and it's the cookie cutter answer. Or one of the cookie cutter answers. I'm going to say Yoda. I have to say Yoda, man, because, look, Yoda, whether you like the prequels or not, whether you like the sequels or not, whether you liked his appearance in Last Jedi or not, it doesn't matter. Yoda is Yoda is Yoda. When I was a kid, right, because for some reason, I'm of the prequel generation. I'm of the generation that was raised on the prequels, but my first exposure to Star Wars was the classics. It's kind of weird, right? I'm kind of that, like, in-between middleman. I'm the fan between fans, if you want to do a Star Wars reference. But my first exposure to Star Wars was the classics. And even as a kid, I looked at the prequels and went, this isn't the same. This isn't this isn't, you know, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. But sorry I keep rubbing my eyes, guys. I work at a grain elevator, and I was dumping Milo all day, and that dust is like fiberglass, or not fiberglass, like insulation that you'd have in your wall, and it's real itchy. So I'm sorry I keep rubbing my eyes. I haven't had a chance to I cleaned up sink wash, but I haven't had a chance to get a shower yet. So, but it's Yoda's one of those characters that when I was a kid, I was bullied a lot in school because I liked Star Wars, and you know, I was kind of an introvert. I was a geek. You know, this is the 90s. This is back when being a geek was what's the word I'm looking for? I guess a society suicide. You know, it's one of those things where if you said you were a geek, nobody wanted to talk to you, right? And maybe it was just the school I went to. They were a bunch of assholes anyway. But anyway, it was my elementary school. But anyway, it was one of those, as a kid growing up, Yoda was the character that I was like, this guy gets it, man. Like, even as a kid, you know, his every single trilogy he's in, I say this a lot, every trilogy he's in, he's got a different moment where he just drops just this stupid truth bomb on you, and you're just like, he's right, man. Like Rob, my buddy Rob that was in a while ago that took off, he and I used to sit and talk Star Wars quite a bit, and Yoda, you know, and how he's the Buddha of Star Wars, you know, and he's so wise, and it's just like almost stupidly wise, right? Because in the classic trilogy you have him, you know, with the do or do not, there is no try, judge me by my size, do you, you know, stuff like that. And you know, those were words to live by. And then you come to the prequel trilogy, right? Which, love the prequels or hate them, Yoda was Yoda, right? So I mean, even if he was CG, we're not going to talk about that abomination of a puppet from episode 1 before the Blu-ray, but Yoda was Yoda, right? But he still had nuggets of wisdom drop in there, like you know, train yourself to let go of everything you fear to lose. That is the biggest, that's the wisest thing I've ever had anybody tell me, right? And that alone has helped me through so many just crappy situations in my life, right? And then Last Jedi comes along. And I told Kirsty, look, I knew beforehand. I'm not going to say who told me, because I'll get him in trouble. But somebody, if you guys have followed the Canon library for a while, you'll know who I'm talking about. Somebody told me, who worked on Last Jedi, somebody told me two things about Last Jedi. One was that you were going to see Luke with his green lightsaber, and that 2, Puppet Yoda was making a return. Now, I didn't know if he was telling me the truth at the time. I thought it was a test. So I didn't say shit to anybody. But it turned out it wasn't a test. Yeah, he was actually telling me. But I'd forgotten about it going in, and when Yoda popped up in Last Jedi, that whole scene just gets me every time. That is my favorite scene in Last Jedi. But he drops another truth bomb on Luke, and it's, you know, heeded my words, not did you. Pass on what you have learned. You know, your mastery and your skill, yes, but also your follies and your failures. You know, failure's the best teacher. Those words are so deep that it's just crazy stupid how deep they are. And those are words to live by, right? I mean, those are words you can take and apply to your life, and it makes things easier. You know, so Yoda is one character that's really helped me through a lot of my life, you know, whether it be, you know, my dad dying, or, you know, the whole situation with my mother. I know a lot of you guys don't know anything about this, but you know, the falling out I've had with a lot of my family, stuff like that. You know, me being the quote unquote black sheep of the family, it's really helped me with a lot, you know. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Yoda as my favorite character, man. I absolutely love Yoda. Yeah, and every time I watch Last Jedi, I still get a little choked up, and one little tear runs down my face every time I see that Force ghost of Yoda in Episode 8. That's the Yoda I grew up with. That was my Yoda, you know. So it was so beautiful to see again. It was absolutely awesome. And there were man tears too. No shame. Don't judge me. So Jamie also says, and the first episode is season 2, episode 16. That's true, with Admiral Trench and the Christophsis arc. That is actually what it was, because the film was like the third piece of that story arc, right? I think that was the end of that story arc, actually. Then it was season 1, episode 16. You're right. I only saw the Clone Wars last year, and I wish I gave it a chance earlier. I do too, man. I really wish I would have. But yeah, that chronological list for Clone Wars. If you haven't watched Clone Wars, go watch Clone Wars. You won't be disappointed. If you watch it in chronological order, I'm stressing that you have to watch it in chronological order for it to make sense. It will make sense if you put it in chronological order. So definitely go check that out. Andrew says you got it right the first time, bro. LMAO. And now I don't remember the first way I said it. So I'm no good with names. So guys, we've been going for just over an hour. It's already 9 p.m. where I'm at. I think I'm going to wrap this up. Oh, hey, hang on real quick. I will answer this one question real quick, because this is something we got to touch on. Andrew asks, what's your thoughts on the Mandalorian series or the Benioff and Weiss series? Okay. I definitely got to talk about these before we get off. I'm going to start with the Mandalorian series, the Jon Favreau television series, the live action. That's going to be on the Disney streaming service, right? I am so stupidly excited for this thing. Like, it's so unbelievably just stupid how hyped I am for Jon Favreau's series. Now, we know it's going to be, what, 10 episodes, I think is what they announced. I cannot wait. I think, I don't know if, was it confirmed that it's going to be Mandalorians? Because I thought it was just a rumor. Let's just speculate for a minute. Let's just say that it is. Let's just say that it is going to be Mandalorians. Set after Return of the Jedi on Mandalore. That's going to be sick. That's going to be so freaking cool. And it almost feels like it's going to have... It's weird because Benioff and Weiss are doing this other series, but it feels like this series could have like a Game of Thrones kind of feel to it, right? So, yeah, no, I'm really excited for that one. 2019 can't get here soon enough for that one, man. I'm so excited. The Benioff and Weiss series, the film series, that one I'm really intrigued about, because we've got... Look, whether I'm going to piss a lot of people off when I say this, and just hear me out, okay? We found out the other day, yes, Rian Johnson is still working on his trilogy. He reiterated he is still working on it. I know rumors are flying that he's been fired from it, and they've canceled it, and Kathleen Kennedy's getting fired. None of that's happening. None of that is happening. Period, right? So we've got a trilogy from Rian Johnson coming, and we've got this series of films, which to me says 4 films or more. 4 films or more. That's what I... To me, because if it was a trilogy, they would say a trilogy. If it was a duology, they'd say a duology. If it was a saga, they would say a saga, right? It's going to be a series. So that tells me 4 or more. So that's like 7 films we got in the works, right? Coming up, not counting episode 9, possibly episode 10 if they do the back-to-back thing, which I don't think they're doing. That's a story for another time. See what I did there? But anyway, the Benioff and Weiss thing, I'm really excited about. And it's weird because I haven't watched any Game of Thrones. I've read the books. I've read the first 4 books. I have not read any of the new Game of Thrones books. I've read the first 4, but I never watched the series because I didn't think it could ever be as good as what the books were. So I never started the series. My buddy Kyle is trying to get me started on the series, which I think we did watch. Actually, I take that back. I think we did watch the first couple episodes, and it was pretty good. So I'll probably end up giving Game of Thrones a shot, the series. But the fact that Benioff and Weiss has been brought in to do a series of Star Wars films, that's a godsend to Star Wars fans, right? Because love or hate Last Jedi, the fan base is split. You know, Lucasfilm has to win back a lot of trust. You know, now personally, I love Last Jedi. If you didn't like it, I'm not going to tell you you're an idiot. You know, I just respectfully disagree. I liked Last Jedi. But if you didn't, to you, Lucasfilm has a lot of trust to gain back, right? Especially after Last Jedi and Solo. Because Solo was kind of for me, right? This Benioff and Weiss series could be something really special. It could be something really, really cool. And Chris and I were talking about it the other night. Chris Stolley, we were talking about it the other night. And what if, right? Because we know, as of now, we know that Episode 9 is going to kind of cap off the Skywalker saga. Which, to a lot of us, has been the only Star Wars films, right? That's all we've ever known with Star Wars. What if Benioff and Weiss is starting a series that introduces a new set of characters? Well, obviously it's going to introduce a set of characters, but it introduces a new, like it's the start of a new saga, right? Like we've got the Skywalker saga, right? We've got 9 movies of them, right? What if we go back to Episode 1, blah, 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 of the Benioff and Weiss saga, right? So, I mean, what if that were to happen? That could be something really cool, right? So then you're going to have like the Skywalker saga, which is episodes 1 through 9. And then you're going to have episodes 1 through 7 of Benioff and Weiss's. You're right. It might be, you say, I really hope that the series is Old Republic and the first Jedi Sith War. It could very well be that. That'd be so sick to see, right? If that is what it is, you could have episode, 1 through, like I said, episode 1 through 9 of the Skywalker saga, and then episodes like 1 through whatever of this saga. That saga's done. Then you're going to have episodes 1 through this of this saga, or episodes 1 through this of this saga. Why couldn't you have several different unrelated sagas in the same universe, right? Why couldn't you have, and show little things that show they're in the same universe, but have the stories completely separated, right? So I'm going to finish this up real quick because Kirsty just messaged me on Facebook, said dinner's ready. She's in there waiting on me. But yeah, I'm right there with you. I hope it's Old Republic. I hope it's Jedi and Sith War, which they've touched on the Mandalorian War. They've touched on that, right? With was it Rebels? Yeah, with Rebels, with the Darksaber. It was the lightsaber of a Mandalorian Jedi. So we know that happened. We don't know that Revan was involved, but we know that happened, right? So yeah, I'm hoping to God that's what it is. Jamie says their big Game of Thrones battles would be brilliant in the Old Republic. A Jedi and Sith armies going head to head. Are you freaking kidding me? Oh my, I got chills just now thinking about it. So yeah, that would be absolutely sick, dude. I'm so freaking excited for that series. And we don't know when it's going into production, right? So, I mean, well, obviously it's going to be after the last season of Game of Thrones, which is coming next year, I think. So, keep an eye out for that. And Kyler Knowles says what he said. Yeah, absolutely, dude. I'm right there with you. I think most of the fan base is of that opinion, and which makes me think that that's what it's going to be. So, guys, real quick, before we end this stream, right? Hang on a second. I got to pull something up. I should have had it ready. Please forgive me. We have a book to give away. Let me pull this up real quick. I've got a random name generator that I use. So, or I'm sorry, a random name picker. So this is completely fair and random. I'm going to be, okay, well, I don't want to do that. Okay, so here we go. That's not the right one. Please bear with me for a moment. I should have had this ready to go. I'm sorry, guys. Let's do this one. Yeah, that's the one I'm looking for. Okay. So, here we go. I'm going to delete these names. I'm going to go through this list of everybody who tuned in, or everybody who at least put in a comment, and I'm going to find the winner. We're going to do Rob Burns, Jamie Holbeach. I want to make sure I spell it right. Kyler Knowles. That way you guys know I'm doing this completely fair. I don't want to be accused of cheating. I got accused of that last time. We're going to go C Sims. And hopefully all these guys are still watching. Let's see here. Jesse, if you're still watching, you want me to throw you in, brother? I know you're not really big into Star Wars. I'm actually not going to throw you in because I know you're probably not really that interested in Star Wars. I know you were just tuning in because I was hosting it, and I'm an awesome boss. So I know. The sound did just cut off. I don't know why it did that. That is really, really weird. And you know what? I know exactly why it did it. It's because I typed in M on my keyboard in the name generator, and it muted my mic. I'm really sorry about that, guys. So in case you didn't hear, Andrew is the winner of the novel. It popped up with Andrew as the winner of the hardback edition of Thrawn Alliances. I hope you don't have a copy of it yet. If you do, let me know, and I will try to pick another name for somebody who doesn't have it. But if you don't, I need you to send me an email real quick. It doesn't have to be today, just at some point. Send me an email at this email address right here, StarWarsCanonLibrary@gmail.com, with your shipping address, and I will get the novel in the mail to you as quickly as possible. Congratulations for winning it, brother. Thank you to everybody who tuned in. Oh, hang on real quick. I got one last question. And it's from Ethan Dups. I'm bad with names, remember. But Ethan says, what character do you want to appear most in the live-action Star Wars series? Oh, a character that we know from something else. That's a really good question. That is a really, really, really good question. If it's going to be anybody, and it's going to take place on Mandalore, it almost makes sense that it would be Sabine from Rebels, doesn't it? I mean, it could. I mean, obviously, Skywalker popping up would be freaking awesome. Leia popping up would be awesome. Anybody popping up would be freaking sick. But I mean, from others in the live action. So let me know below, guys, in the comments. What do you guys think? Who would you like to see pop up in a live action Star Wars series somewhere that's never been live action? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear that. And next week, to be completely honest, probably Tuesday with Labor Day coming up. Mail's not going to be running anyway, so I'll probably get it in the mail for you on Tuesday. So be looking out for that. And thank you to everybody who tuned in, everybody who participated. It really does mean a lot to me. I wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for you guys. And like I said, if you guys are interested in knowing what's coming for the Star Wars Canon Library and you tuned in late, go back to the beginning of this video. I laid it all out for you guys. Guys, as always, make sure to visit the website, StarWarsCanonLibrary@gmail.com. God, you can tell I'm really tired. You can send us an email at StarWarsCanonLibrary@gmail.com for any. I think we're going to start mailbag back up on the Star Wars Canon podcast, and that's where we pull the questions from. So make sure to if you have any more questions, drop me an email. I'll get it thrown in, and you'll hear what me and Crystalli have to say about it. Make sure to visit the website, StarWarsCanonLibrary.com. for the entire timeline of everything chronological, cover art for every novel, every comic issue, every film, every TV series, everything is there. Like I said earlier, a chronological list of Clone Wars episodes are there, and I'm going to be uploading the podcast every week there, which is making its comeback tomorrow night right here on the YouTube channel. Make sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and that notification click. That way you'll know whenever I get that uploaded. It will be tomorrow night before 7 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. So keep an eye out for that. I cannot wait to get that going again. And like I said earlier, make sure to visit us at Facebook. We're going to be doing live Q&As at the end of every month. I'll make sure to put events out so you guys know when those are coming, and we're just going to sit here and talk some Star Wars once a month, man. And like I said, all the great shows that are coming for the patrons, make sure to go check out the Patreon. I would sure appreciate it. I'm not going to beg you, but I would sure appreciate it, man. I really would. There's a lot of content coming that's going to be just for you guys, and I can't wait to start getting that out for you guys. So, guys, it has been fun. I've had an absolute blast talking with all of you. I love talking with Star Wars fans. Absolutely love it, especially other fans that respect other people's opinions, because I don't have very, popular opinions sometimes. So I really do appreciate nobody jumping down my throat and accusing me of being bought out by Disney. That's obviously not the truth. But guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Like I said, it wouldn't be anything without you guys. Thank you, and as always, may the Force be with you.